The Architect's Experiment. Dr. James Carter's breath came in ragged gasps as his eyes flickered open. The air around him was thick, sterile, yet tainted with something unfamiliar. Bright surgical lights loomed overhead, casting a bluish glow on the faces peering down at him. But these were no ordinary doctors. Their elongated skulls, pale, wrinkled skin, and unnaturally large, luminous eyes sent a jolt of terror through his body. They wore surgical masks, but he could see the twitch of something unnatural beneath them. He tried to move, but thick leather restraints dug into his wrists and ankles. Panic surged through his veins. He wasn't in a hospital. He wasn't in any place he recognized. The last thing he remembered was driving home from his shift at the university hospital, exhausted after a long day. Then a flash of light. And now this. One of the creatures tilted its head, its piercing blue eyes analyzing him. It reached for a tool, a long, glistening scalpel. Dr. Carter opened his mouth to scream. "Patient is conscious," a voice echoed, robotic yet almost human. Carter's eyes darted around the room. The walls were smooth, metallic, pulsing with faint, undulating light. This was no operating room on Earth. "Please," Carter croaked, his throat dry as sandpaper. "Who are you?" One of the masked beings leaned in closer, its bony fingers pressing a strange device against Carter's temple. A flood of images assaulted his mind, visions of planets spinning in the void, galaxies merging, civilizations rising and falling like sand castles against the tide. "We are the architects," the voice inside his head whispered, "and you are the chosen subject." A rush of cold fear gripped him. For what? The creature didn't answer. Instead, it adjusted the straps on Carter's arms, ensuring he wouldn't move. One of the others inserted a needle into his forearm, a sickly green liquid coursing through the tube. Fire spread through his veins, his vision blurred. "We are here to repair you," the voice continued, "to prepare you." "Prepare me?" Carter groaned. "For what?" The being's gaze was unwavering. "The next stage." Darkness swallowed him. When Carter awoke, he wasn't strapped down anymore. He was standing, no, floating, in a vast chamber lined with translucent pods. Inside each pod lay a human, their bodies eerily still, their chests rising and falling in sync. And then he saw himself. His own body was inside one of the pods, unconscious. He staggered back. His hands, were they still his? They looked the same, but something felt off. He turned to the reflection of himself in the glass. His face stared back, but his eyes glowed blue. Alarms blared. The architects turned, their fluid movements suddenly urgent. One of the pods cracked open, steam hissing from its edges. A woman tumbled out, gasping, her eyes wide with fear. Others began to stir within their glass cages. Carter felt it then, the knowledge that wasn't his, yet somehow was. The architects had been experimenting on humans for decades, altering them, preparing them for something greater. But not all subjects survived the process, and those who did were no longer entirely human. A screech filled the air. One of the architects lunged toward the escaping woman, a needle in its clawed hand. Instinct took over. Carter grabbed a metal instrument from a nearby table and swung. The creature stumbled, its piercing eyes locking onto him. The other humans were waking up now. Panic spread through the chamber. Some screamed, others ran, all of them desperate for answers they might never receive. Carter turned to the woman. "We have to get out of here." She nodded, breathless, eyes darting to the sealed doors at the end of the room. "How do we—" she began, but Carter already knew. The architect's knowledge had seeped into his mind. He placed a hand on the nearest panel, and the doors hissed open. Beyond them was a vast abyss of stars, the universe stretching out in all directions. A single spacecraft hovered, its ramp descending as if inviting them in. The architects let out guttural shrieks, their elongated bodies twisting toward the humans. They would not let their experiment escape. Carter turned to the others. "Run." They sprinted toward the ship, their lungs burning, their legs moving faster than should have been possible. Something had changed within them. They were stronger now, faster, more. As Carter reached the ship, he glanced back one last time. The architects stood at the entrance of the facility, watching, their expressions unreadable. One of them spoke into his mind. "This is only the beginning." The ramp sealed shut, and the ship lurched forward, propelling them into the unknown. Carter exhaled, his glowing blue eyes reflecting the vastness of space. The awakening had begun.